Good morning, everyone. This is Deborah Pruitt, Burton Advocates for Youth. Hi, everybody. This is our March FAFSA Challenge TA call. It's also March 2nd, the priority deadline for Cal Grant Awards. So hopefully you're all finished, right? Just kidding. No, we're here to touch base on a few things. First, I want to start with the I'm sure you're all connected. I can see that you're here. I want to remind you that if you want to raise your hand to ask a question, click on that little hand icon and I can unmute you. Right now everybody's muted so we don't hear any noise, background noise. But it would be great to have a bit of conversation, so I hope you will click the hand, and we're going to do it a little differently this time and try to go ahead and answer questions as they come up. So if you're listening to somebody and you've got a question about that, we want to try to go ahead and address those questions. You can also post your question on the dashboard, your little dashboard, control panel is the word I'm looking for. And feel free to type your question in there and we'll answer them also. And then, as always, we will be posting the recording of this call on the FAFSA Challenge webpage. So if you want to check back to something or you want someone else to be able to hear it, then you can get that recording. So I'm here today, and then also Melinda Clemens is here, our project consultant for the FAFSA Challenge, and we're going to get to hear from 3 counties. So it'd be fun to hear a little bit about what folks have been doing, what strategies have been working, ideas that you're having. So we've got Kim Silva from Kern County and Adrienne Matoyer Leonard. Sorry, I bet I messed up that, Adrienne. I'll let you straighten that up. And Kim Cornet from Santa Cruz. They'll be up in a few minutes. I want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, remind all your counselors and liaisons about the Chafee application so that when students are completing the FAFSA, it's ideal if they get their Chafee application done. Kind of a one-page, easy application just for foster youth, so it's so important. And then also urge the students to create their own Web Grants account. They can go in and check their financial aid application status, find out there whether they've gotten the Chafee grant, find out about their financial aid package, and it's just all around a good mechanism, tool for helping students start to really take responsibility for that part of their lives, which they will have to do increasingly as they go to college. So it's great if they have their own account. Big notice, we'll send out an email, at least one, to this effect, but we have moved the date for the March completion report to make it due March 23rd and not on March 15th. We realize that it's a bit of a time lag between the federal financial aid office providing the information to CSAC and when you can get that updated report. So we wanted to add an extra week in there to make sure that you've got the data that you need to send us your March 23rd report. Okay? I also wanted to say, anybody on the call, if you're having any difficulty with Web Grants, either you're having trouble with your login or you have your login but you can't get access to your high schools, please let me know today. They've just been tremendous stepping forward to try to help with access and have their systems analysts, senior analysts on deck to help with any of those issues. And so we want to get you in, fully in, so let me know if that's still not happening for you. So again, I wanted to highlight that this is the report that we need. Most of you sent in the January report using this form, and if you would send this form in for the March 23rd completion report, all we need is the total foster youth seniors in your baseline, and then the total number who've completed the FAFSA or DREAM Act up to March 2nd, okay? So I wanted to point out that the other entry-exit worksheet is for your records, And if you want to show us why your baseline number might have changed because of a student that left the county or one that entered the county. And we put all those instructions in the Web Grants User Manual, so it should be pretty clear how to use that and make that work. But we don't necessarily need that report unless you want to show us entries and exits. And then the March 23rd report. And then also, again, this is where you've got the tab for the May 31st completion report, and that's when we need your scholarship drawing entries. That's when you want to send us the list of students with an anonymized identifier that you assign to each student. That's what the campaign ID refers to. And I believe Foster Focus has created one if you're using that. But however you decide to identify your student anonymously to us, but so you can tell them if they've won a scholarship, that's when we need that. It's only due on May 31st, but if you're already, all your seniors have completed and you want to go ahead and send us that report, that's fine. We'll take it early, but May 31st is the deadline for that. I wanted to take a minute and remind you about all the resources that we put on our FAFSA Challenge webpage. A lot of you have been using it, but I just wanted to point it out again in case anybody has missed it, that there are campaign resources here. On the right side of the page, I've just done a screenshot of the list of links that we have there for you to use for building your campaign and your outreach and communication materials and so forth. And then we also have special resources for you all, for the foster youth service coordinators. And this is where we've got the Web Grants User Manual, the second bullet there, which we've really tried to be as thorough as possible, even updated with the information that Dolores Daniel shared in the February TA call for the tricks, tips that she had developed to work with the Web Grants report. So if that's where you are now, I recommend you look at the manual. Also, if you go to the last bullet there, you notice is the link to these technical assistance webinars. Each of them, January, February, is already posted. We will post March there as well, so that you can actually listen to Dolores do her presentation if you want to. I think it was extremely helpful. So I want to remind you those are there. If someone else in your office is working with the reports, maybe they want to review that, it's available. And then also the other resources to help, again, building your packets for either outreach or for helping helpers help students. And we're starting to get some news coverage. So we're posting the links to that here, and I'm going to let Melinda talk to you a minute about that, but it's been great to see the FAFSA Challenge hit some of the radio stations and newspapers and really highlight and spotlight the need for more attention to financial aid for foster youth. So it's been great to see. Reminding you of the webpage, and then of course Melinda's in my email, and we are, I think we've been able to respond pretty much the same day or certainly within 24 hours to any questions. So don't hesitate, we're here. Just reminding you that when you do work with your reports, you want to use the student summary report and the financial aid application, no GPA report, to determine all of the students who have completed the FAFSA and DREAM Act applications. I won't take a lot of time right now because we've gone over this before, but I just wanted to highlight again the value of these reports, why we put so much time and effort into getting you Web Grants access. You'll be able to see any students who don't have FAFSA completed, any problem with it may have been a simple name mismatch. It may be that they haven't been contacted and helped yet, but the point is that you'll be able to check throughout your county and be able to go to those district folks and say, offer them some help and coaching and training on how to reach the students. Also, it's so important that the GPA match be verified that it's occurred, and also the EFC The red circle here on the bottom right corner says no EFC, which means that their expected family contribution was not calculated. It means something went wrong with the application itself, which needs to be fixed in order for the student to get that calculation, in order for them to get a financial aid award. So what happens on the college end is the financial aid office gets these students in August when they're trying to start the semester, and there's a problem with their application, so their aid hasn't come through, and they're starting the semester without any money. And that means they usually don't have books and or other expenses covered that they need to be able to be in school. So the more that you all can do on this end at this time, it just makes a huge difference for them going forward. Again, another reminder that we've got the links to our webinars on the resource page, the FAFSA Challenge resource page. So the webinar we did on demystifying the FAFSA, which is very specific tips for how to complete specific questions for foster youth, is there. So you can share that with all your district counselors and liaisons, and also the overview on financial aid for foster and homeless youth. So it provides a bigger picture about different types of financial aid and how it's awarded, and also some of the information about completing the FAFSA. And then our TA webinars are there, so anybody can listen to those anytime. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Melinda to talk more about social media and publicity and outreach.
Thank you, Deborah. Yes, so we just wanted to remind you again that we do have a social media presence. We're really trying to build that up, so please check out our Facebook page. Here it is. And be sure to like our page and share our posts on your own pages. If your County Office of Ed has a Facebook presence, we would love to connect with you there. It's just a good chance to get good ideas and reminders. And things you can post, your FAFSA Challenge news, events, photos, maybe a photo of somebody standing next to the FAFSA Challenge poster might be a good idea. Video clips would be wonderful. Just a great place to share tips and resources. And remember to tag the challenge page in your post. And we also are tweeting. So this is our Twitter. Next slide, please. So you can follow us on Twitter at FAFSA Challenge, and let us know who we should be following also, because there's a lot of great resources flying around out there, and it's a good chance, kind of a good place to gather all of those resources. Next slide, please. And then we wanted to let you know that we'll be adding a new corner on the FAFSA Challenge page that's on the JBay website. We're going to call it Featured FAFSA Challengers, because, as you know, we want to celebrate your accomplishments throughout the challenge. Next slide, please. So send me news that you might have, events you might have coming up, or events that have already happened. If you want to just share kind of like, what you did at these events and partnerships you have happening in your county. Let us know when you've met or surpassed that 60% goal. We want to, include that information as well. And then also just send us any innovative ideas you have for FAFSA completion. And we'll be adding that that part of the website as soon as you send me your news to include. And on that note, also, as Deborah mentioned, we've had some local news pickup, which has been great. So if you would like some support in connecting with your local media, we have a PR consultant who can support you in that effort. Next slide, please. And finally, we want to remind you that the first round of $1,000 awards that will be distributed to the FYSCP in each of the groupings by size of small, medium, and large counties. Those first round of awards will be given out at the Foster Youth Education Summit on April 9th and 10th. So that's exciting. And that's it for me.
Great. It is. Good. Thanks, Melinda. And so, that's unrestricted funds for you to use for any foster youth support that you deem important for your county. So hope to see you there and hope to see you getting an award. Okay, then I'm going to turn to Kim Silva at Kern County. We talked a little bit, and I thought some of the things that she described that they were doing were really interesting, and it might be fun to hear about. So we invited her to give a few minutes of presentation about what they've been working on in Kern County. So Kim, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Deborah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us today. I'm so excited to share with you all the incredible work of my team, our agency and school partners, and most of all, our youth in our county's first ever FAFSA challenge. Next slide. If you haven't spent time in Kern County, let me give you a quick introduction. I'm sure most of you have driven through our county on your way to and from LA. We are California's third largest county in size, about the size of New Jersey. And we are primarily known for our agriculture and oil industries and our country music, of course. Our county is made up of 3 distinct regions. We have valley farmland and desert, which is divided up by mountains. And I mention these things because they will come into play later when it comes to some of our challenges as a community. Next slide. We currently have close to 2,000 children and youth in care. 1,250 students are in foster care that are attending our schools. 413 are in high school, and we have 113 fosters in 12th grade. Next slide. When it comes to going to college, it can be an uphill battle for our current students, whether or not they are foster. Our size and geography, along with our limited transportation options, limit a lot of our students' access to the same enrichment services, educational programs, and activities as students here in Bakersfield. We have a high family and child poverty rate, along with a low-wage economy, which makes it hard for many of our students to continue their education after high school. As a result, we have one of the lowest college going rates in the state, with less than a third of our graduates enrolling in college. And when it comes to our foster students, the outcomes are worse. Half of our students in foster care will graduate. And the latest stats we have shows that one foster youth student will drop out of high school every 3 school days here in Kern. So we knew this campaign would be challenging, but we saw it as an incredible opportunity to take on as a team, because we believe that when you help a foster youth complete the FAFSA, you are telling that youth, we believe in you. Next slide. So collaboration is key in everything we do here at Foster Youth Services, and we are fortunate to be housed at the Dream Center, which is Kern County's only one-stop resource center for current and former foster youth. We work alongside most of our agency partners for the FAFSA Challenge, and with our new access to web grants, we can now offer our ILP and AB-12 social workers, as well as our probation officers, regular information about 12th graders who are still in need of completing the FAFSA, and report back to them if their application had any errors, and they really appreciate this service. Our 12th graders who met with social workers and POs here at the Dream Center can also work with one of our our staff here in the College Career Center. They can attend financial aid workshops, or they can get help completing their FAFSA at our computer lab with some individual one-on-one assistance with our AmeriCorps members who volunteer there. Next slide. We spent December through February basically just being road warriors. We caught any regional meeting we could all over Kern County. We presented on the importance of the FAFSA for 12th graders. We tried to correct some of the misinformation out there about fosters and financial aid. and explain some of the reasons why our foster students may not complete the FAFSA in the first place. And of course, we shared resources and posters from JBay. Next slide.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Kim, but
yeah.
I just have to laugh at this slide. I love that picture with Oprah. You get a meeting. You're going to be. It's so funny.
I know. I appreciate that. Always go with Oprah. I appreciate that. Our high school counselor teams, I'm sure as in other counties, have been our biggest allies during this campaign. We have 56 high schools throughout Kern, so reaching all of them individually with our timeline was not possible. Luckily, we were invited to the Kern High School District's quarterly foster youth counselor meeting in January, and they served the majority of our high school students. So we held a mini FAFSA challenge kickoff with them. I have to say that our high schools and districts here in Kern are doing amazing work to help their students complete the FAFSA and receive financial aid. However, one of the first things we had to remind them of was how our foster youth can easily slip through their outreach efforts and help them to troubleshoot some solutions in reaching out to their fosters frequently about financial aid. We also went over features in Foster Focus to help them ID their students. We had a resource table, and we passed out individual school FAFSA challenge resource packets. Next slide. And here's a picture of what we created with supplies that we had in the office, like limited budget. The packets had a cover sheet of the resources that were inside that they could use as masters for photocopies that they could give out to their youth, along with contact info from us here at Foster Youth Services. And we divided up the JBay resources, like the resource guides and the stickers, based on the number of 11th and 12th grade youth that they had at that school. We also distributed these packets to all of our AB 490 liaisons, our ILP and AB 12 social workers, and our probation placement officers. Next slide. In addition, we created a Foster Youth Services Coordinating Program resource Google Drive with packet resources, along with additional support service info to help connect students to resources like housing and college support programs to make the transition from high school to college as successful as possible. We basically bombard our counselors with regular group emails, either highlighting local college and career events for their students or the great resources from JBay webinars. We also sent out Excel spreadsheets of our youth who were still in need of completing the FAFSA, their completion rates at their school sites, and we would let the schools, the counselors know if a student had an error on their application, and we try to do that on a regular basis, either every couple weeks or once a month. We also found sending out this, the information about the individual high schools to the district AB 490 liaison was very helpful for extra support, and I'm doing like the air quotes around extra support. So we found that very helpful to have them also take a role with their schools, making sure things were getting done. And we would do a quick FAFSA check-in at the end of each of our phone calls. We get technical assistance calls from the high schools in the district, so we would make sure at the end of our call just to do a quick check-in on if they were having any issues or any problems with the financial aid process. Next slide. One of our biggest points of pride with the FAFSA Challenge has been our foster youth YES organizations. So YES, or Youth Empowering Success, are on-campus organizations developed by our office to mentor and empower foster youth, resources, and transitional support. We currently have 21 YES orgs at Kern High Schools, including our court and community schools. The goal of YES is to help our students be ready when they turn 18. They have a plan for themselves after they graduate and have their basic needs like like housing and the FAFSA in place, so they can just focus on school and training after they graduate. Next slide. Our students in YES work closely with Youth to Leaders, or Y2L, as well as Bakersfield College during the FAFSA Challenge. The AmeriCorps members that are with Y2L facilitate our YES orgs at the Juvenile Detention Center and our community schools. And historically, these are the foster youth students that very few folks will reach out to about the FAFSA and college planning here in Kern. So those students have the extra support with Y2L. They provide case management to these students. They provide college and career transition plans, which includes applying for the FAFSA in 12th grade. Bakersfield College, we have a close relationship with. They too have a YES org on their college campus, and they will work with the high school YES orgs providing college and financial aid presentations. As a support to Bakersfield College, we provide them with monthly counts of 12th graders in foster care by school from Foster Focus to help them set up those financial aid workshops at the schools. And Bakersfield College partners with our ILP program here at the Dream Center, and they host several FAFSA workshops for ILP 12th graders in the evenings to complete their applications. Next slide. Finally, we incorporated the FAFSA Challenge into our YES conference last week. This is an annual event that brings together foster youth with the caregivers and the community agencies in their lives to address barriers that foster youth experience and create solutions together that will increase their success in school and becoming young adults. We had 250 attendees along with 50 high school foster youth students at our annual event, and all attendees received FAFSA Challenge flyers and reminders about the March 2nd deadline today. At our vendor fair, our 12th graders were able to set up appointments to meet with either Bakersfield College or Y2L to complete their FAFSA before today's deadline. At the event, we asked our students who completed the FAFSA to be FAFSA ambassadors for their YES organizations. So as a leadership activity, they were asked to reach out to 12th grader, to other 12th grade either YES members or other foster youth on their campus and remind them about the March 2nd deadline, and then connect them to Y2L to help them complete the FAFSA before today's deadline. Next slide. We did encounter some challenges, and I'm sure are not unique to Kern County. With the short timeline, we weren't able to reach out to the outlining communities. We are a relatively new program at our County Office of Ed, and we're not really as well known to our mountain and desert communities as some of our other County Office of Ed programs. So we couldn't get out there as much as we hoped for before March to meet with their students. We had a limited number of resources and mentors before today's deadline to speak to students about higher education at the schools. After talking with our students, we found that some of our students were unaware of their financial aid status, and when it came to filling out the FAFSA, some of them didn't know their social security number or personal information, which delayed them completing the application. Another challenge is that a lot of our students are in survival mode. They're more concerned about turning 18, so they don't even think about school. Their main concern is just finding a place to sleep and where they're going to live. Last was our student mobility issue, especially with our out-of-county youth. We have some districts in Eastern Kern, for example, that their out-of-county youth percentage is like up to 84%. And so they have a lot of mobility. Our Bakersfield College and Y2L teams would go out to meet with the youth to finish their partial application, and they found that the students had already left without notifying us. Next slide. So far, the most important thing we've learned about the FAFSA Challenge is that we treat it as a process rather than a one-time event. So start early and talk often. This means that before students even get into a computer lab to file the FAFSA, they're already receiving information about what it is, why they should file it, a list of materials they'll need, some tips on avoiding common mistakes as often, and we need to tell them as often as possible. So we plan to work the challenge into our back to school events next year throughout our YES meetings and our ILP workshops. And we're also working on providing more school staff trainings on resources and let them know about all the financial aid that our foster students are eligible for. We are also working on expanding the number of our YES orgs in 2018-19, especially in our outlining areas. And we're going to implement the FAFSA Ambassador Program into all the YES programs as a leadership activity for our 12th graders and start that at the beginning of the school year. We want to build our relationships with the community colleges in the west, east, and north parts of Kern. We want to kind of show them what Bakersfield College has done, their fantastic efforts in connecting with local high schools. And we would like them to kind of mirror some of those efforts with the high schools in the outlining communities to get the financial aid information out. Finally, at the beginning of the school year, we will be training all the high school counselors on Foster Focus Grad Tracker feature. So as students move schools, counselors can immediately pick up where the last school left off within the financial aid process and keep that momentum going. Next slide. We know for a fact that we know for a fact that that there were a number of students who only completed the FAFSA because of this challenge. Because of this challenge, we had teams out meeting with youth that didn't even know this was gonna, that they were eligible for financial aid. So in doing the FAFSA challenge, these students changed their plans about what they were going to do after they graduate, and now it includes college. So we know this is already a success for us. So even if there isn't a state campaign next year, we will definitely be doing the FAFSA challenge as part of our regular annual activities. We found it to be a great way to engage our schools, our community partners, and our youth to talk about the importance of having a plan after school, to correct myths about college and financial aid, and to set up our youth to succeed. So that's it for me. So thank you for having us today. And next time you are passing through Kern County, stop by and say hi. Deborah?
Thanks, Kim. We will. Now we have a reason to stop.
That's right.
I didn't mean to throw Kim off. I added this slide because she was so generous as to offer these links. And so I put a little gift package on here because I thought it was such a generous gift to everyone. And this is their Google Drive links with all the resources that they've created and put together for their district folks, and the FAFSA Challenge packet folder. I just thought it was great resources. So didn't mean to throw you off, Kim.
Thank you for doing that.
and the team that makes it all happen is there. So I don't see any hands raised right now, so we'll move on. But be sure and let us know if you have any questions. I think that I found that very interesting and inspiring, and I'm glad to hear that you feel that the FAFSA Challenge actually concretely helps youth see a future for themselves that they didn't see before. Great news. Great. Thanks. Okay. Stay on the line, and I'm going to move to. Get my cursor in the right place again. I'm going to move to Alameda County and ask Adrienne to share some of what their strategies have been. I was at a Bridge Collaborative meeting a few weeks ago and heard some of the district folks talk with them, and you know, it was pretty clear they had a pretty high level of completion. So I thought, well, let's hear from Alameda County.
Hi, everyone. This is Adrienne from Alameda County. Thank you so much for having us today. Next slide. Internally, we have 5 education mentors on board, and our education mentors actually go out to each and every high school and meet with counselors and staff. We have queried reports from both CalPAS and Foster Focus that identify all of our 12th graders in our jurisdiction living both in and out of Alameda County. We then in turn share this information with our education mentors who go out to the individual high schools and share the information with the counselors and the child welfare workers. I have Liz Tarango here, who is our FYSCP director. She shares the data with our Alameda Foster Youth District Liaison. Next slide. We have had an ongoing collaboration with Beyond Emancipation and ILP. They have been a great help in getting foster youth to complete the FAFSA. They have held workshops and after-hours events encouraging our youth to complete the FAFSA. They are always on board for questions and for help to assist the foster youth to complete the FAFSA. Our DCFS Education Liaison has sent an email blast out to all of the child welfare workers in regards to our FAFSA challenge, and we have gotten a great response in that regard. Next slide. So our ongoing strategy for supporting post-secondary goals. We participate in the Alameda County Bridge to College Collaborative, and the collaborative includes a wide range of stakeholders, including ILP, who I just mentioned, Foster Youth Services Coordinating Program, Casey's, our Next Up staff, CSU East Bay's Renaissance Scholars Coordinator, dependency attorneys, child welfare, and John Burton Advocates for Youth. The collaborative meets regularly and has a clear plan for its scope of work and the roles for each stakeholder in these 3 areas: connecting with more foster youth to college, connecting foster youth already in college to campus support programs, improving the rates of persistence and graduation of foster youth. That's all I have for today. I'm very open to questions at this time.
Thanks, Adrienne. I can add, just because I attend the Bridge Collaborative when I can, that it includes housing providers and some other community-based organizations. So it's a really wide, nice, broad, countywide collaborative that is focused on these 3 areas. And so it's great to have all those different voices engaged with each strategies in each of those areas, and they really did sort of take on the FAFSA challenge. I was impressed with the email blast and the connection with the DC with Child Services, and I don't know if that maybe you all have that in all the counties, but I thought it was good to hear that there was sort of that direct communication. Adrienne, you said that really made a difference. You felt like there was a strong connection and response from that.
Yes, and in fact, I have Liz Tarango here, our director, and she can speak to that. She has a direct connection to our education liaison with DCFS.
Hi, everybody. So we had, for a number of years now, we have an education liaison, part of her hat, a program manager with child welfare. And so she was very excited. She's part of our executive advisory council, which I forgot, we left them out of the slides. But obviously, we let our EAC know as well in terms of the FAFSA challenge, both in person and by email, and shared, as we did say, the kind of reminding them who their 12th graders were in terms of eligibility. But our representative from child welfare put out an email, and we did hear from some of the workers. So they looked at their caseloads and had the data, and they followed up with those particular students and to make sure that they had, were either interested in applying or, and in fact, a lot of them had already applied. Anyway, so that was part of our strategy as well.
Well, that's good news. And the fact that some of them had already applied suggests that your strategy with your education liaisons is really working. That's great news. Your internal folks working with the district folks. But what you're describing also makes me think about this, what I keep mentioning around the implementation of SB 12 that was signed last year, making it easy for the social workers to complete their requirement to make sure that all youth have someone to assist them with the financial aid application. So that liaison, that communication, collaboration that you've got there is so important and so valuable. So that's good to hear about. Thank you very much. Anything else to add? I think we're good to move on. And then we have Kim Cornet from Santa Cruz County to share with us some of how they've been approaching the FAFSA challenge.
Good morning. This is Kim from Santa Cruz County. Thanks for having me. Next slide. We just have one slide here today. So this is kind of an example of maybe a smaller county and what we're doing. Since January 2013, the Santa Cruz Foster Youth Services Coordinating Program has incorporated the foster ed educational teaming model into our program. So every school-age youth ages 5 to 21 is assigned an education liaison at the beginning of their dependency. We get our referrals directly from our child welfare agency, which we call FCS, and 2 of the 4 liaisons are actually co-located in the FCS offices. So we have a strong collaboration with the social workers. We're currently serving 169 students, 17 of which are seniors. So this relatively small population of students helps, make this model manageable. Each liaison has a caseload of around 50 students. And the foster ed model consists of ensuring that each young person has an identified education team, an identified education champion, and I'll talk more about what that is in a minute, and an educational case plan based on identified strengths and needs identified at their education team meeting, which is a meeting that we hold for all foster youth at their school site. The education team includes the young person and their family, both biological and foster, caregivers, STRTP staff, social workers, mental health workers, CASAs, ILP coordinators, basically anyone who's supporting the youth, coaches, mentors, family members, and also school staff, which is, can include teachers, IEP case managers, school administrators, guidance counselors, and school site socio-emotional counselors. We're really lucky to have, our largest school district has a socio-emotional counselor at each school site, and they have foster youth in their caseload. So we have a really great collaboration with our schools and districts. The educational champion piece of the model is the adult identified in the student's life who we anticipate will be the post-care caregiver. And this is usually the person who also holds educational rights. So we want that person to be equipped with the capacity to support the student's education once they exit foster care. So we hold the education team meeting, and after the education team meeting, the liaison enters in the goals the team came up with, and we have a special online case management and teaming tool called Ed Team Connect, or ETC. And the liaison monitors and follows up with the team to check on the progress of the goals through the length of the dependency. They offer support and resources to the educational champion as needed. We monitor educational records such as grades and attendance. And we've had some so this program was initially initiated by NCLE, National Center for Youth Law, and now it's fully funded, here in Santa Cruz County. And we've had really great outcomes in the last 5 years. Students in our program consistently show increases in attendance and GPA. So we keep getting funding because we're having some pretty good outcomes. So for our older students, especially for students in permanency as opposed to family reunification, the liaisons can become sort of more directly involved in working with the student. And especially given that there's so many steps involved with the post-secondary transition, we really find that it takes a team and it takes the liaison stepping up from the case management to sometimes more direct service. So this really robust, proactive case management process has been in place, as I mentioned, and been really effective for the past 5 years. And we have been doing this work of ensuring that students complete their FAFSA. It's sort of been embedded in the practice and the goal setting and the educational plans. But I do have to say that the excitement generated by this campaign, the stickers and the posters, has been really motivating and energizing. We've shared it with all of our partners as well, our EACs, our AAC. We've also shared it with the High School Articulation Council, which is a countywide collaboration of high school guidance counselors. So everyone is aware of it and is excited about it, and I think it's definitely sort of stepped it up a notch in our county. So the other piece, the second bubble here, is our collaboration with our independent living program and their coordinators. So we have a really strong ILP program in our county. There are 10 coordinators who meet with youth regularly. They collaborate with the foster ed liaison, and often sort of, with the goal of helping the youth complete the FAFSA as well as whatever else is in the education plan. They have their own teaming process called STAR meetings, which are youth-led meetings that we also participate in. So we do a lot of teaming and coordination of services in Santa Cruz County, so we can really relate to that Oprah meme. It's like there's a lot of teaming and a lot of communication, and we really bump it up for our youth who are seniors and post-secondary. We also work with non-minor dependents. We just find that they need a lot of support. So we decide whether it's more appropriate if the ILP coordinator helps. Sometimes youth aren't, engaged with ILP, and if so, we will see if someone at the school site can help, or we will just directly, the ed liaison will just directly help with the FAFSA. So in most cases so far, I think in our county, it's either been the foster ed liaison or the ILP coordinator who has helped the youth fill out their FAFSA. Again, we have that small number, so we can track it pretty closely. And we've had other youth complete the FAFSA through the college counselors at the school sites. But because we have that teaming communication, we can kind of, ask that question easily, and just, if no one else has done it, essentially step in and just get it done. We also meet weekly, so the FYSCP staff / foster ed staff, we meet as a team weekly, and we have seniors as sort of a standing agenda item. So whatever it is having to do with seniors, whether it be the FAFSA, the CHAFE, other local scholarships, the GPA verification letter, the web grants, the anything that's coming up when it comes to seniors, we just sort of have a little blurb on the agenda and touch base about it every week as a team. And lastly, we have most of our students end up going to, we have one community college in the county called Cabrillo, and we have a really great Guardian Scholars program there. And we have a strong collaboration with their coordinator, and we oftentimes do the figure out who on the team would be most appropriate. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a CASA, to do the warm handoff, to actually take the youth to the Cabrillo Guardian Scholars office and introduce them to the coordinator and sort of make that connection, because we do find that's really, helpful and successful as far as, keeping them in college once they're there, which is another thing we're looking at. And in addition to ensuring that our seniors are completing their FAFSA, we also want, we work to ensure that our students who are already in college, freshmen, we work with them until they age out of the system. So make sure that they are also completing their FAFSA and continuing to get their aid once they're in college. So that is sort of a summary of our model here in Santa Cruz.
Thank you, Kim. It's so helpful and interesting, and just really grateful to all of you for these presentations. I think it's, I know each of the counties have great things happening. I'm sure that you all have interesting things to share. Let me know if you'd like to share some of your experiences and learning. And we'll have our next TA call in April 6th. So, we can spotlight some others of you. I think you all have been just amazing presenters today. And I will say that two things is one is we know we were sort of starting late this year, and we started when we could start, and you all have been amazing stepping up and making such things happen. So it'll be easier next year, along with all the work to get the web grants to access and so forth. So especially for counties that didn't have much in place. I mean, Kim just described, a lot that they have been doing for years now. And others of you, I think Kim Silva, described kind of really getting it kicked off the ground. So, next year should be even more exceptional. And I'm glad to hear that there was some excitement generated by the materials that we provided. That was the idea, to make this a buzz. I also wanted to mention that I'll be sending out an email in the next couple of days with the details about the statewide meeting that we're going to hold for you all at the end of May, and to say that I'm getting some really great folks lined up to talk about career education in the community colleges. And I know a lot of you may already have a lot of that knowledge about your local colleges, but the fact is there's a world out there that offers great pathways for lots of students, but in particular a lot of the foster students. So I wanted you all to have that information, and when I think about having students, talking to them about college and getting financial aid applications done, I think it's so important to have information about different pathways for them, ones that might fit their interests or their preparation, and certainly their need to generate income. And I think the career education pathway is huge, and there's great things happening in that field. So we're going to have some really nice speakers, I think some really helpful information on that, which will make the FAFSA challenge even easier next year and beyond. So I wanted to see if you have any questions, anything, any comments, anything you want to share from your own experience. Questions for our panelists? I don't see any. Melinda, you don't see any questions, right?
No, I don't. Yep. No.
Okay. Anyone? You can raise your hand. I'll call on you. It's like we're in class. Well, I take that to mean that the presentations were so helpful and thorough that there's no questions. So I'm going to call this and say thank you all for being here. Thanks for being such a contribution to the students in making the FAFSA challenge such a success. Remember March 23rd for the first completion report. See you at the Foster Youth Ed Summit for the awards to the winning counties, the first round. And you know where Melinda and I are. If there's anything we can do to help, please get in touch with us. Thanks, everybody. Take care.